If you've been following the news up north, Rochelle Galindo, who is the representative in House District 50, was going to be recalled. She ended up resigning quickly when there were sexual assault allegations against her. After that, the report came out from the police. And what really happened? Well, who would have thunk it? It was Complete Colorado's reporter, Sherrie Peif's all fault. And apparently you were the one who engineered the whole thing. I want to get into that in a little bit, but also from the city council, Stacy Suniga. I was almost there.
That was close.
All right, who was also played a part in this, and I want to get to that. But first, let's just do a recap. Mm-hmm. So there was a recall effort, largely over the oil and gas issue in a town that was really dependent on oil and gas revenue.
Yeah, Weld County has about 95% of its assessed valuation in oil and gas in unincorporated Weld County, and it's big for all the communities up there. And Rochelle ran on a neutral stance on oil and gas, and she took a neutral stance when it came to Proposition 112 last fall, and her constituents really felt betrayed when she went ahead and voted yes on 181. So that was the basis of the recall, was mostly on the 181. But there was also the red flag law and national popular vote, and she was voting along, strict Boulder Democrat lines.
All right. I think the recall was going to be successful, but the story I want to talk about is not only how the report broke, but also how the resignation went down. So let's go there first. If I understand the story correctly, the recall Rochelle folks, the official recall, including Amy Oliver Cook, in full disclosure, works with me at the Independence Institute, but lives in Greeley, loves Greeley. God, does she love Greeley? I don't know what it is with you people.
We love Greeley.
Love Greeley. It's so wonderful.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Anyway, a tip was sent to that website, and then she didn't know what to do with it, so she gave it to a reporter.
Right.
What happened then?
So I get the tip in an email, and it says it was a screenshot of somebody else's social media account, and the tip said something to the effect of, "I don't want you to use me as your source right now. However, I have heard that Rochelle Galindo had been feeding her interns on her campaign full of alcohol and sexually assaulting them, specifically a young woman by the name of X," and they named this young woman. "Could you hire a private investigator?" Well, it was sent to me because I'm a reporter, and I started chasing a story. I grew up in Greeley, 51 years. I love Greeley as much as Amy does. And I have a lot of friends in Greeley, including one particular woman who I've known since I was 10 years old. Her name is Deb Suniga. It's Stacy's wife. And I sent that screenshot to Deb, and I said, "Could you please, do you know anything about this? Do you know this girl?"
Why would you choose her other than just being a friend?
She's inside the Democrat Party. She knows the players inside the Democrat Party.
You know Democrats?
I know lots of them, and they're my friends.
That is disgusting.
I know, they're my friends.
Awful.
I'm sitting right here.
I'm right in front of you. All right.
So I sent it to Deb, and I said, "Do you know anything about this?" And she immediately came back and said, "Where did you get this?" And I said, "I have no idea. You see what I see."
Let's bring it over here. So your wife gets this. What happens next? And you're on city council. She is not, right?
She is not. No.
Right.
No.
Just a long time for her. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Deb gets the message, and she reads it, and it turns out that they do name somebody in this message, and it sounds similar to someone that we both know, but it's not the exact correct name. And so what Deb did was she called the person that we do know that has a similar name and asked her to come over. And so the girl comes over. I'm home. I've been home for a little bit. I've been on medical leave. But she comes over, and Deb proceeds to ask her, "I got this message today, and I don't know if it has anything to do with you or what, but if this is out there and it has something to do with you, I think you should know." And so she shows it to her, and then the woman, she doesn't deny what it says, and she just starts to tell us her story, which I won't get into in case there's an investigation, but she starts to tell us her story. And so I'm in the room at the time, and so then when she's done, Deb and I look at her and say, how can we support you? And she was unclear at that time, a lot to process. You know, she just felt really overwhelmed, and you know,
This is a
this,
young lady, right?
This is, yeah, she's young. And so she says, if I think of something, I got to figure this out. You know, I'll give you a call. And so it was later that day that she actually came by the house again and said, I think I really want to file a police report. Can you help me figure out how to do that? And so I made calls to the police department. I have direct contact numbers,
Right.
and said, someone wants to come in and file a sexual assault report. What is that process? They gave it to me. I gave it to her. I drove her down just as a support. She went in and she did her thing. That's where my involvement ended.
Started and ended.
Yeah.
And while those facts are important, because once the police report was made public, I got calls from reporters, as did you, shocked and accusing. And in full disclosure, Complete Colorado Works is owned by, I don't know how you want to put it, by the Independence Institute, the organization I run. And did you know that Sherrie Peif filed this police report on this? And I'm thinking, no, I did not know this, because that would be a complete political hit, and it would be inappropriate for a reporter to get involved in a story that way.
Right.
And so, and why did everybody think? I mean, lots of news outlets were reporting you called the police.
Yeah, every
Why?
news outlet. I had every news outlet calling me. So in the police report, and I haven't seen the full police report, but I did see the portion where my name was at. And the way the report was redacted, it was a heavily redacted report, but the way the report was redacted, it read, blank, City of Greeley, said, Sherrie Peif said, and then there is a statement that was the screenshot of the tip that I got. So the report read as though I was the one that said, hey, I've heard that on more than one occasion, blah, 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 blah. Well, the name that was redacted was Stacy's. And the reason Stacy's name was redacted, I would later find out from the police chief, is because apparently anytime somebody comes in with an assault victim, the witnesses' names are also redacted. I was not a witness, I was not a party to the case, therefore my name wasn't redacted, but the way it was, everything else was redacted, it appeared that it was me that filed the report and not. And that is because Stacy had later told me that during the conversation, she told them, we got this from a tip from a friend of ours who's a reporter. And so that's how I ended up in the police report.
And by the way, thank you, and you and your wife, for doing what you did. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
What surprised me the most was a journalistic rush to say you, especially, and Complete Colorado by default, were somehow involved in a political hit. So it looked like you set somebody up so that you could report on it, and boy, that was going to be a gotcha. And a lot of news things went out, a lot of online stuff went out, which needed to be corrected or updated, as they say. How did you feel about all this? I mean, because I called you, and you already had the TV reporters in your office.
Yeah, Marshall Zellinger at Channel 9 was standing in front of me with a camera when you called and had Kyle Clark on the other line. It was tough. It was.
Let me say, Channel 9 did not run anything that was false. They did their due diligence, and hats off them for doing that.
And same thing with the Greeley Tribune. I'll actually give kudos to them as well, which started out as it looked like it was going to go bad. When they got the right story, they didn't even report on me. They didn't even put me in the story. So that was even better because they didn't even talk about that. But it was tough because in the beginning, it was the Greeley Tribune, Channel 9, Colorado Public Radio, the Denver Post. I think Colorado Politics called my immediate editor, Mike Krause. Everybody was calling everybody. It was tough because they wanted to make me the story, and I wasn't the story. The story was two young girls who had filed sexual assault charges and contributed to the delinquency of minor charges against an elected official. But all anybody wanted to do was say, oh, look, we gotcha. Complete Colorado is out there setting up, legislators.
Let me ask you, because Rochelle is more on your side of the political aisle, but yet you and Deb played a role in this. Watching the recall, watching this has to be not a fun thing for you.
Well, I just think it's, the situation that we're talking about is sad. And I don't care. As far as me as a person, even as a politician, I adhere to the integrity of our elected officials. And if something has gone wrong, I don't care who you are, what party you belong to, if you've done something that abuses your power, I think no one is above the law. You need to stand with it. But this was so not political. This was us hearing a story from a young woman who I offered whatever support she needed. She told me what she needed, and I gave it. And I can say that as a political person, but I can say it as a human being. That is where our concern was for the welfare of the woman. And she made her decisions to go forward and do on her own. This was not political in any way for us. This was just about us giving support to another woman who needed it.
Give me your lesson, both of you, I guess, from the media rush on this. And I'm sure this glosses over a lot of people. This was not a big story for a lot of folks. But I'm going to tell you, it was a big story for you, and by default, it was a big story for me. So when I see news outlets misreporting, saying Sherrie Peif contacted the police, which is out and out false, it angered me.
It angered me too. And some of them, in fact, one of them, and I won't mention it, one of them is a former editor of mine that I had at a previous employer. And we had a really good conversation, and he retracted and he took everything out, and it never came into print. And it was really angry because he knew my integrity, and he knew my work ethic, and he knew my judgment. And just because I went to work for Complete Colorado, none of that changed. And for me to have to all of a sudden defend my integrity, when, let's remember, I did no stories on this. I did not, even though I knew what was going on, and even though I had contacted the people that knew what was going on, Complete Colorado did not break this story. Complete Colorado didn't even report on this initial story.
You were still investigating this
because
story.
I was still investigating the story, and I was both personally and professionally too close to the story to do. So I didn't do the story. If this was a political maneuver, if this was a let's get you so I can get out and do the story, I would have run with the story on the very first day that I contacted Deb Suniga, and I did not do that. So it angered me tremendously, especially when I have my employer calling me going, what is going on,
And I thought that was totally respectful, to the person who's reporting. That, 'cause like I said, that was our concern, and
Right.
and that you didn't jump on that story for political gain or for,
Right.
Was respectful.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Listen for me in the Denver Post. Listen for me on KL Radio. Read me in the Denver Post. We'll see you next week.